And the game starts right as the song finishes. It's what we like to call Providence in this business, as we have Immortal Fire, the fan favorites of this chat, going up against a much stronger opponent than last game, with all respect given to overachievers Dignitas, aka Soup, going to bring a much harder challenge for our Chilean friends over here. But as always, to give you guys insight into this game and into Dota itself, I bring you at Nizcast, and I hope he is excited for this game as everyone around him.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Of course.
Well, at this point, Niz, now that I've asked you that question 3 times, your responses are getting better, so that's all that matters.
We had doo-doo-doo before.
We had the original doo-doo-doo. That was the non-remixed original Darude doo-doo-doo. So, was the most epic doo-doo-doo.
How fitting was it that I played Sand King before the cast too? It's just,
I mean, I like to call this Providence. I like to call this God, if you were religious, staring down at us saying, "Look, Niz, Dota Raptors, you guys deserve to have a great cast tonight, because all of the stars are going to align for you. And we're actually going to get to see a Brewmaster this game." So last game, you guys weren't able to see, but Soup actually ran a train on their opponents. The kill board was actually really even, but they were just far ahead in every respect. But they were doing a lot of work with a Brewmaster. So now in the hands of Immortal Fire, we'll see how Dignitas or Soup deals with it in this upcoming game. Wraith King is definitely a decent answer. You can throw him up in the air, though, and completely negate the fact that he, has an ultimate that gives him an Aegis, and just remove him from the fight casually. But there are other heroes that Dignitas could definitely pick up that will make throwing up Wraith King in the air a little bit of a waste, and that's probably what they're looking to do, is just pick up a lot of heroes for Brewmaster to deal with.
You put Wraith King on support though, and that you definitely don't want to be throwing a support up in the air. And if you don't in some way deal with Wraith King and he can just start firing out a whole bunch of stuns, his stuns are really, really short cooldowns. So, when you're getting stunned every 8 seconds, and you're getting stunned for, I think it's 2 seconds.
It's 2 seconds with a 2-second dot slow afterwards. So it's a total of a 4-second disable with an 8-second cooldown. Viper will be the next pickup from Immortal Fire, and those are 2 heroes that are very hard to focus, very hard to kill, but can do a lot for your team throughout the duration of a fight, especially a hero like Viper. He is very good at drawing a fight out and getting a lot out of that fight by constantly throwing dot damage with his poison attack, Viper striking your carry to slow them down, and of course, Corrosive Skin, one of the most annoying abilities in the game to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Both these heroes are actually going to be very, very strong in the mid game, but at the same time, so are the Dire heroes.
Pugna Band, very interesting.
Oh yeah.
I guess they're really scared of the push potential, because you're definitely going to see Brewmaster mid, Viper core, if not tri-lane carry in an aggressive tri-lane, safe lane carry, or maybe even just off lane, because they are Radiant side. They can be a little bit greedier on the Radiant. Off lane is, of course, you do have that pole camp to exploit in the shorter distance, but yeah, interesting.
I'm trying to figure out why they banned the Pugna.
I mean, maybe, I don't know, because I really feel like Pugna would be an interesting pick. Don't know what Immortal Fire wants to go with, though. This is a different draft than their last game is. This last game, they definitely went with something a little off the rocker, as we did have The Rock getting dropped all the time by Warlock, played by Dumpster, who is the drafter again, so...
Reserve time.
I'm really curious why they banned Pugna.
Yeah, no, I guess, honestly, they're just scared of the push potential, and also, I mean, to be fair, Pugna kind of destroys Wraith King. Because of the constant mana drain, Wraith King can't stand in the fight. He's never going to have his ultimate. Shadow Shaman evaporates himself. The hero could do a lot. I just think both of us are a little thrown off by it because of the fact that they already have a Brewmaster and a Viper, and it would be kind of interesting to go into a Pugna after that, because you'd be completely limited to the mid-early game. Or the early late game. And after the early late game, you'd be completely out of oomph or potential to win the game if you hadn't already put yourself in a winning position. Jakiro and Tinker will be the final bans as we move into the second phase of this draft. For the quarterfinals of the Semi-Pro Cup Series, and of course, guys, if you haven't heard of this tournament before, brief summary. It's a very important tournament for prestige and showing the North American and South American scene that you're a team to be reckoned with. You do get $100 as a nice little consolation prize, but the bragging rights and the respect is far more worth it than the $100. So both of these teams getting very close to a lot of prestige in the amateur scene.
Yeah, it's obviously, if you bring your team into this tournament, you're expected to go, and you're a high tier team. You're expected to go very deep into the tournament, and it's definitely a tournament that's going to get your name out there, and people are going to start recognizing your name. But even if you're on a high tier tournament or high tier team, or you're an up and coming player, playing in this tournament regularly, getting on teams, and having people just see your face on different teams that get really far into the tournament is a good way to get known in the community, start meeting new people, start being able to form new teams and stuff like that. And it's a really good tournament just to show everyone who you are and that you're good. Or if you're a team, to show everyone, hey, we're a new team on the block, but we're definitely here and we can run with the big boys.
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely a gateway tournament, I'd say, in getting into other leagues and stuff like that.
I completely agree. And to segue back into this draft is we have another Venomancer on the side of the Dire. And again, the Dire draft is starting to have reminiscing feelings of the last game. Immortal Fire picking up a draft that has some a lot of mid-game as well as now laning stage strength. Yet to pick up anything that could go a little bit later, but they have the potential to. And the Dire side picking up a very team fight, mid-game centric orientated team. Now, the Wraith King could become a core, the Veno could play support, but most likely Veno will be a core, and a Veno core does not scale well. So both teams are either going to go straight for the mid-game, or we're going to see a very interesting game, as two mid-game teams that clash and break even go very late, and Dragon Knight will be the next pickup for Dignitas, and Dragon Knight is a great transition carry into the mid portion and the late portions of the game. I think he's one of the most spoken about heroes when it comes to carry potential, because his ultimate is a free Scotty plus a crit. It just runs town on a team if he gets a big enough gold lead.
This is a pretty scary lineup from Dignitas. You've got a lot of ability to push down towers. You've got the roster wards, you got the Venomancer, you got the Dragon Knight ultimate. You can really chunk towers and really just knock them down quickly. However, I don't know if Dragon Knight's got a good lane. I imagine Brewmaster would just beat him straight up 1v1, and I think Viper would dominate him really hard too. So I don't really see him getting put in a really good lane in the mid lane. That being said, though, Dragon Knight's a hero who always gets what he needs. Even if he's getting completely dominated in a lane, he just throws out some breathe fires and he gets creep kills that way, and he at least ends up with some gold.
Yeah,
but
and
maybe there's something different. That's certainly something different, especially if they decide to put the Timber Saw.
I love seeing this hero, man. I love seeing it. Such a fun hero to watch. And you know what? One of the biggest weaknesses of Dragon Knight is, before he gets a BKB, you can burst him down because he has very little, magic resist. He has a lot of armor and HP regen, but especially when you have a hero like Timbersaw with that Whirling Death removing 15% of your base stat, makes a big difference on two strength heroes already on the side of Dignitas.
I love how Timbersaw went from being like what was considered one of the strongest offlaners in the game to being like, this hero's complete garbage, no one ever pick him.
Before that, that's how everyone thought. Everyone was Timbersaw is a garbage hero, he's just a nuke, no one can, why would you ever play him in competitive? But Undying is actually a really good way to deal with him.
That's a push lineup.
Yeah, no, it is. And it can go late, though, with the Dragon Knight. But Timbersaw is one of those heroes that if he gets 1 to 2 good fights, and he gets a 15-minute Bloodstone, he is going to eviscerate the 3 strength hero core coming out of Dignitas, assuming Venom's a support. At least that's my prediction. Now, that obviously comes down to multiple factors. How Dignitas plays out the fights, if they disable the Timber Saw, if they don't, does Timber Saw hit clutch Chakrams and Timber Chains. But if he does play what he needs to do, there is a lot of potential for a Timber Saw to get out of control. Because, yeah, Dragon Tail, Wraithfire Blast, Shadow Shaman disables are great, but it feels lacking to me. Maybe I'm overestimating Mortal Fire a little bit, and you can check me here, but I feel like Dignitas's disables are enough, but still lacking to deal with the Timber Saw.
I mean, you don't have to lock down a Timber Saw to kill him. You can just deal damage to him. You don't have to focus him and blow him up. If you just deal a bunch of damage to him and he has to retreat, then that's fine too, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That is true.
This
The
is
Enigma.
crazy.
The Enigma pick is definitely a very interesting one, as this game is shaping up to be quite the game, guys, as we have Dignitas, aka Soup, taking on the big guys from Chile, Immortal Fire Gaming. And I'm excited for this match, and of course, this is a round of 8. Winner of this team will go on to the semifinals, and is one game away from winning $100 and a lot of bragging rights.
Pretty early in the tournament for this this kind of prestige of a game. Even though, you know, a couple games ago we didn't know who Immortal Fire was. Well, they definitely showed us who they were and showed us that they had a lot of potential. And with some help from a couple of the guys in chat, they let us know that this is one of the best teams in Chile. So
most definitely. Well, here we go, guys. We're gonna get into this game, and I'll go ahead and introduce the fan favorites, as we have Immortal Fire hailing from Chile, taking up the Radiant side. For them, the captain, Dumpster, picking up the Enigma, Jungle. We have Kezia picking up the support, Skywrath Mage. On the Brewmaster, we have, of course, Gix picking up that mid lane role. That leaves... God, I'm going to screw up his name again. Kiryuba picking up the offlane Timber Saw. And last but not least is Guerrero playing Viper again. And we saw him play a very strong Viper last game.
Alright, on this dire side we have Dignitas,
aka Soup.
aka Soup in the brackets. Playing the Undying is Derp, who I believe was their captain. Playing the Wraith King is Madog. Playing the Venomancer is Yugi. We have Ritsu on the Dragon Knight and Fan of Soyun on the Shadow Shaman.
Well, this definitely is shaping up to be a very fun game, Niz, as we already see.
Is this a 2-1-2?
I believe it is.
1-2-2. I think it's 1-2-2 actually.
Why would you 1-2-2 to shut? I guess to shut down the Brew. I think they're going 2-1-2, and I think what's going to happen is that they're gonna roam around.
Well, they're blocking up the jungle, making sure that Enigma doesn't have a good start.
Yeah, this will block this camp and this camp. Of course, this ward will block this camp. But that is 2 observer wards dedicated to guarding or to preventing jungle camps from spawning, which means they have 0 rune vision right now. Of course, they body blocked up this camp as well. This camp won't spawn, but this camp will. Enigma will get a start to the jungle, but not the start he wants, but a start nonetheless. And of course, this duo aggressive lane is not going to get too much done against a Viper. And the one thing that's nice about Immortal Fire's draft is that the dual lane setup coming out of Soup would punish a lot of heroes, but not the core heroes that they have put into lanes. It's really hard to kill a Viper and a Timber Saw.
Well, Skywrath needs to be careful bottom here. Uh-oh.
Yeah, he does get caught out. Ziva is trying to go onto Yugi. Yugi might actually be the first one to fall as the Gale does go off on him. The right clicks are definitely coming out pretty hard from the Radiant side, as Yugi does get that salve off, will be able to juke around in the trees, and with excellent duo play coming out of Soup's side, they might be able to clean up both of these kills, as now Guerrero is caught out a little bit too far, and Guerrero will fall, making it 2-0 for the side of Soup. And Niz, what do you think happened, or how do you think that worked out there?
That was just incredibly well played. They knew that rotation was going to happen. They knew Skywrath was going to rotate around there. And obviously, you know, it was confirmed by their ward in the middle of their jungle that it was just Skywrath alone making that rotation. But they just waited. They baited the Veno, and then, well, they collected first blood, and then they managed to keep going Get another kill. Was there just a smoke bot? Or?
No, it looks like it's just the Skywrath Mage rotating back into position, and they want to try to turn this around, and they need to be a little bit careful, because if they do get overeager and throw away too many kills to this Undying and Venomancer, they will get behind very quickly, and Veno, lets you speak on this, Niz, is going a very uncommon build in the traditional sense of a Venomancer.
It's not that bad. It does a lot of damage, especially when it's played in the core role. Poison Sting is actually a ridiculous amount of damage. If you can get right clicks on people, especially in the early game when you're getting levels, because I should say when he's played in the core role, he's going to get levels faster than a support would. So as you level that up, it starts doing a ridiculous amount of damage. It's similar to when you level up Venomous Gales. Venomous Gale, it does a lot of damage in the early game. But potential action in the top lane.
Yeah, as they are going to diving onto the Timbersaw. Timbersaw might be able to get away, but it doesn't look like it is. The right click from Phantomsonian will clean that up. Switching the tower aggro to the creeps will be able to get alive, and 3-0. As unfortunately Immortal Fire falling pretty far behind at the early stages of this game, but they are not out by any imagination. There's still the potential for them to come back in this game.
What'll be interesting with this Venomancer's build is what he goes at 4. Whether he chooses to put the second point in Gale or if he chooses to put 1 point in Plague Ward. I have a feeling he's not going to put his 4th point in Plague Ward, because he does have Undying kind of controlling that space to his side, and indeed he does go with the Gale. So this will give him a ton of damage. And generally you just want to get that 1 Plague Ward to kind of secure.
Oh, Dumpster is getting gone on by Derp, and I don't think this will turn into a kill, but if it does, it would be very big for Derp. Dumpster sitting at level 3, does have access to summon Eidolons. Derp not giving up yet. Of course, he has a zombie to help slow up the Enigma, and he does have access to 1 point in Soul Rip. There aren't any creeps in vision, but he will be able to clean up this kill, and Derp hunting down the Enigma. No one from Immortal Fire was able to protect him, and unfortunately making that 4-0, and an Undying getting this kind of solo experience from a kill is going to come to backfire, or going to come to bite Immortal Fire in the ass really quickly if they can't shut down this bottom lane.
But I'm trying to think which lanes are actually going good for him. Gix is doing well in the middle lane, but it's still relatively even. And he's slightly ahead, but still relatively even. But I have to say both top and bottom lanes are definitely Dignitas' favorite.
Yeah, they definitely are, and with the way they're breaking down, it definitely looks like that more and more. The question is, how much bigger of an advantage can they get, as Phantomsonian has rotated out of that top lane with level 3, almost level 4 access to 2 disables, and they want to take this fight right now, as they have baited it with Phantomsonian coming in from the back. He gets the Hex, dealing quite a bit of damage to Guerrero. He's trying to stand up and fight Yugi, but he's not going to get the kill. The ownage is sound as it's 5-0 in favor of Soup. Kezia trying to get a return kill, but can't quite clean out that Veno, and now make it 6 as Derp gets a killing spree, and now Dumpster might be caught out a little bit alone here, as the rest of the team could rotate over, but I think Dumpster should be safe. And unfortunately, it looks like Immortal Fire is getting a little bit overrun here, as the early game presence from Soup is working out very well.
Yeah, they're definitely caught off guard by this kind of dual lane off lane, and this roaming Rasta is actually doing work. The first time he's actually rotated to the bottom, but it was a really good rotation. And he actually ate through the trees
Gix
to get through and caught.
Denies his stick. You go, Gix. Alright, it's the beginning of the comeback, guys. Get hyped and chat, as Immortal Fire has officially denied a stick, and Gix is looking to bring his team back on the back of Magic Stick Gaming.
Well,
GG
the one good
Gaming,
thing is that in previous games, in the last game that we saw, Immortal Fire had incredible teamwork when it came to fighting as 5.
Well, in the bottom lane, they might get picked off again, as Guerrero is just getting isolated and picked off by multiple long-range disable stuns, right clicks, and that will be Undying's kill, as Derp sitting at level 6. Getting quite a bit of levels, but the turnaround might happen as they do get the Malefice on to the Phantomsonian. Right clicks are going out onto Yugi, and I think they'll get Yugi, but no, they don't. He actually stays alive, and now the entire tri-lane is wiped. Gix comes in to clean this up, and he will get 2 kills, and those were needed. Gix getting actually really close to a Blink Dagger because of that. But holy hell, Niz, this game is falling apart right now for Immortal Fire, and
yeah, like I was saying, they have the ability to fight really well as 5, and we've seen that in the last game. So this game is just a matter of not falling apart right now, because this is very quickly getting to a situation where you just don't want to be in, and you're getting way too far behind in this game. So that rotation from Gix as they're going on Karuba in the top lane.
And they might actually be able to get him as he drops down to really low HP, dropping down to death, aka 0 HP.
So that was a very important rotation by Gix to go to the bottom and kind of clean up 2 hero kills. The problem is that also gave space to Dragon Knight in the middle lane, although CS-wise they're actually still even. So in the end I think Gix kind of wins out on that rotation.
Gale on the bottom lane, they're going to be able to get Guerrero here as he's caught out between 2 heroes. There's no one here to support him. The illusions are not going to be enough. Guerrero falls to Derp as he goes 6-0-3 as an Undying.
They just need to stop dying. And Gix needs to do a lot of work with this Blink Dagger. He still doesn't have it yet, but he's going to have it real soon. 170 gold away. And he just needs to go around and run all over the map.
They're going to dive again on bottom. They're just going to drop the Tombstone. It looks like Kizia is going to try to TP away, and he should get away. 200 HP. Not too close to dying, but still close nonetheless. And Niz, do you think there's any way that they can stop the bleeding in this bottom lane besides just leaving it completely? Because it looks like they are going to, and it's kind of going to become a low point.
I mean, this is going to keep pushing. This is the problem. This is going to keep pushing, and it's going to actually start happening at the tier 2. Which means this jungle is going to be very scary for Dumpster to be in. So he's not going to be able to farm as efficiently as he is right now. Which isn't good because he hasn't been farming all that efficiently to begin with. So he's going to have even more limited space. You know, what Immortal Fire needs to do is just somehow
well, they might go the wrap around on Yugi here as he is caught out between 2 different heroes. There's no one nearby as it looks like the Undying is actually quite a bit a ways, and now they'll be able to clean up Yugi. The question is, will they be able to clean up Derp too? Yugi does get cleaned up by the Brewmaster. Derp will walk away, but Gix does have that Blink Dagger Niz, and like you said, he needs to do a lot with it.
Top lane.
Top lane, actually, is he? He does get the Aegis Burn, which is very important, actually. That's a very long cooldown at this point in the game. And actually, a lot of the time, when you die with a level 1 ult as Wraith King, you tend to get the second point in your ult before it comes off cooldown again. That's at least how it goes for me sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, what I was gonna try to say is, yeah, like you said, Gix has that Blink Dagger, so it's really up to him and his team to see what's gonna happen if they can turn it around. There is a TP into the lane, as now they have 3 heroes here: Yugi, Uritsu, of course, Phantomsonian, gonna be able to apply pressure to this lane. Of course, Rasta having access to wards as well now.
Well, they realize they're not gonna give us bottom tier 2 as easy as they did this year 1, and we're not going to be able to push up and really chip away at it. So we'll just rotate mid. We'll just take mid tower.
And the blink in down to Kuryuba as Mad Dog skipped the Midas and just went straight for the blink, and that's going to be the death of the Timbersaw. As the scoreboard goes 12-3, middle tower getting sieged hard. They haven't even used wards yet on Phantomsonia, and the concussive shot goes out as they do have the blink on Gix, but he's getting cancelled by those wards, and they even get the deny, which is very important. Gix will get the slap on to Yugi, as that is slowing him down quite a bit, and the wards are there to actually block in most of the Panda ultimate, and he's stuck in the trees. He's only going to be able to kill Yugi, but he's not going to be able to pursue out and save his team as the Enigma has already fallen, and so too does the Skywrath Mage. Yugi might actually live, but he will finally fall. But there is no question in my mind that Gix falls as well, and with 15-4, unfortunately, Immortal Fire is looking to finally hit a brick wall in this tournament, as Soup is coming out incredibly strong in the first 11 minutes of this round of 8 game.
This is getting a little scary for Immortal Fire right now. They're very, very far behind, and this is
for 10 minutes.
10K, yeah. They're losing 1,000 gold per minute. That's never good. And Venomancer, he did just shy, so they did just get the kill on Yugi. But he's at 500 gold right now, so 400 away from finishing his mech. And that's going to be even more threatening.
That's after Tread's Bassy won, too.
Yeah, and there's Enigma is working towards a mech, but he's still almost 900 away, so.
And the blink forward by Gix trying to go on to Mad Dog. They might actually be able to get this kill with Kirby, but there is no other form of heal or Aegis on him, as it still is on cooldown. Kuryuba does get that kill. And that is a very important one, as they do need to just chip away at this advantage and get something back on the board so they can turn this game around in their favor.
A lot of pings coming out. They know the rotation's there.
Yeah, and
nice and safe.
We haven't talked about Guerrero. He has been slowly catching up after the 0-4 start.
Going on.
Yeah, in the middle lane, they might be able to get Ritsu, and this would be another important kill. Again, every one they can get right here is huge. And look at that, 2 unanswered kills going to the side of Immortal Fire. Breathe back in the life to their fire, guys, as they will secure those 2 kills. And this is, like I said, I think this is the only way back into this game at this point. It's kind of that dire. And it's not to be, a doomsday caster or, bias or anything, but it's really hard when you're this far behind this early. Because the comparative disadvantage is much bigger than later on.
Absolutely, but that's how you get back in the game. Those little chip damage or little kills, those little baby steps. Basically picking off a hero here or there. And players, especially when you're 10k ahead this early in the game, you get really, really confident. So they actually become easier to gank, even though they've got more gold
And look,
and
they're
more
going for this
XP.
Roche. If Immortal Fire could get wind of this, they could really turn something around right here, but they are just going to move into the bottom lane. Oh, if only they knew, Niz, the potential for them right now, but it looks like Roche is going to go unanswered and go into the hands of Soup.
Unfortunately, I think it would be really crazy for them to really go and commit into that. I mean, if they won that fight, it would be a huge swing in their favor. But I don't think they quite have the items to really fight in a 5v5 right now. I think right now they're just going to move around the map and avoid. They have all 3 tier 1s up on the dire side, so Radiant can just avoid and just try and chip away at those towers and get what they can. As you saw, they left bottom and they immediately pinged mid and top.
They did not want to be
Actually,
anywhere near.
the ping top was from dire, sorry. But yeah, they definitely know that they're just going to have to avoid and just try and take some towers because they need gold in some way. And even if that comes on the back of a trade, that's fine. Are we making any ground? No, but we're getting closer to those items that we need. Those core items that we need on our heroes. Which is very important.
Yeah, the equivalent items that they already have. But again, like you said, it's the trading because you need it more than they need their next item. And so trades are always favorable for the disadvantaged team. There are conditions in which that's not true, but Gix in the jungle getting caught out will get stunned up as well as shackled. Looks like he's going to turn this pursuit, as of course that poison damage is ticking away, preventing that blink dagger, and now it's reapplied, so there's another 5 seconds left to get the Viper ultimate on Ritsu, taking a ton of damage. Of course, that whirling death eviscerating his HP, but backup is here as Dumpster is going to fall. The Aegis is finally popped onto the Dragon Knight as Kiryuba is trying to back it up with that Chakram, using the Timber Chain to escape. Guerrero attempts the TP and does get out alive as Brewmaster throws Dragon Knight into the air, trying to turn this. The Dire's Courier does go down, and that's 175 gold to every member of Immortal Fire. The concussive shot coming out onto Yugi. Gix is in a huge problem as he's surrounded by 4 heroes from the Dire side. Will fall, leaving all 5 heroes up for Soup. 2 heroes down for Immortal Fire. And they got close to getting something out of that, but because of the Aegis, they get nothing.
Yeah, Gix was actually on Fan of Soyeon, and he just kited him off to the side over here, and just waited, and said, "All right, Gix, you're going to need to pop your ult to kill me." As soon as Gix popped his ult, Fan of Soyeon just force-staffed down over the cliff, down into the river, and Gix
Actually, in
couldn't
the
do
bottom
anything.
lane, Dumpster's going to get caught out behind the tower. There's too many heroes there from the Dire side, and it's going to clean him up quickly. Kiryuba trying to defend his teammate is not going to get out alive as he gets Ether shocked on the way out to finally get cleaned up. 2 more heroes fall on the sidelines as they lose their bottom tier 2 tower, the first tier 2 of the game. But I imagine it's going to be one of many, unless Immortal Fire calls GG soon. They're in a very bad situation. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, Niz, but I think there's a good way to kind of give an idea of where this game's at. Do you honestly think that there is a scenario in which Immortal Fire gets out of this game with the victory without Soup making mistakes?
Well, no.
If Soup makes mistakes, then yes, of course.
No,
but if they don't,
you can't expect Soup to play perfectly. I think
right.
I think there's always the possibility to force mistakes, and you do that by just essentially outplaying your opponent. putting yourself in a good position because there's constantly mistakes happening all over.
Opening forward by Mad Dog is going to catch out Dumpster. He gets silenced up, and there's the Mystic Flare doing a ton of damage to Mad Dog. He might actually fall, but remember, he has that Aegis, and now Dumpster getting cleaned up before he gets that black hole off. The split comes from Panda. But Guerrero is going to be the next one to fall, and that's 2 heroes on the sideline for the Radiant. Looks like Kizia is going to be the third as he falls to Yugi. And now 4 as Brewmaster's trying to get away. He does finally use that Wind Walk, but if they're smart, they won't actually kill the Fire Spirit. They'll wait till he reassembles at it, and then they will clean him up, making it 4 on the side. And Kuryuba calls the GG, and GG well played. Unfortunately for Immortal Fire, Soup coming out with a dominating performance. Able
they just
to win that game.
You rolled over there.
Well, Niz, for me personally, I think Immortal Fire has a lot of potential in the future and should not take this as a very damning loss at all.
Well, they did, and the last game they showed a lot of promise. This game obviously wasn't as tight. Even when they started getting behind, they made a couple mistakes. That tier 2 push in the bottom lane, there was 2 heroes that were caught out. And they had another hero in the middle lane and another hero in the top by their tier 2. And I don't think we ever saw that kind of uncoordination where, 2 heroes were that far up defending a tower while 2 were across the map in the previous game. So it seems like they kind of got away from their game as they fell behind. But, it's hard because sometimes emotions start to play a part when you get this far behind in a game, especially when you've been playing this tournament for 4 or 5 hours deep now, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, it's a little heartbreaking when you fall this far behind. But they did lose to one of the strongest teams, most likely in this tournament. This is a team that's probably going to go pretty deep, if not to the finals. So, this is the round of 8, but you didn't lose to a bad team.
Well, off of that, Niz, we will be following this team into the round of 4s. Of course, Immortal Fire already losing to a round of 4 opponent. We are waiting for the brackets to update, guys, so we'll get you into that match as soon as possible. Of course, if you enjoyed this cast, please follow my Twitch at below you, Twitch TV/DotaRaptors if you're watching on the VOD. If you guys want to watch these casts on your own time or any of our casts that are archived, you can go to youtube.com/DotaRaptors, subscribe there, get updated when we put the VODs up so you guys know. And of course, finally, check out Niz at Nizcast for his Twitter to keep up to date with what we're casting, when we're casting it, and what's going on. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and turn on the waiting screen and some music as we wait for Soup to get into their next match in the semifinals.